On this Friday night, counter-tariff U-turn. Canada drops import duties on some American goods.
We're matching what the United States has done.
The president's response and what it means for businesses and trade talks. Under surveillance and undercover, what court documents reveal about the police investigation into 4 Quebec terror suspects. Famine is officially declared in Gaza City.
Everyone owns this. The Gaza famine is the world's famine.
The warning from the UN and reaction from Israel. Plus, morphological mingling.
It's a mixture of traits.
What these ancient bones reveal about when Homo sapiens procreated with Neanderthals and how it's challenging the story of human history.
Global National. Reporting tonight, Jeff Semple.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. Just months after promising an elbows-up response to the U.S. trade war, Prime Minister Mark Carney announced today that Canada is dropping many of its retaliatory tariffs. Starting in September, Canada will remove tariffs on U.S. goods that comply with the North American Free Trade Agreement. Prime Minister Carney says the move mirrors the American tariffs on Canada and was necessary to reset trade negotiations. But as Mackenzie Gray reports, the U.S. is promising nothing in return.
All right, elbows up.
Elbows up.
It's the slogan that propelled the Liberals to a comeback victory. But less than 4 months later, Mark Carney admits his elbows are now down.
You know, when you're late in the game, dropping the gloves and taking the extra penalty might not be the best thing to do. And that's the situation we're in now.
The day after speaking with Donald Trump, Carney announcing Canada's latest concession, a removal of counter tariffs on goods covered under the Canada-US-Mexico free trade deal, like orange juice, appliances, and motorcycles.
We're matching what the United States has done, what the president has done.
But the Prime Minister is yet to match the litany of other U.S. tariffs. American steel and aluminum duties are at 50%, Canada's only at 25%. Trump's blanket 35% tariff on non-free trade goods hasn't been reciprocated by Canada. Same goes for U.S. duties on lumber and copper.
Canada and the United States.
Despite the long tariff list, Carney says it could be worse.
We have the best deal. Look at the numbers. Our tariff is 5.5%. We have 85% of our goods are free trade.
I consider it very, very unfair.
The U.S. ambassador complained about these counter tariffs in an interview with Global News last week.
Canada has decided that, that's fair game. We will, call into question CUSMA.
It's going to be unbelievable.
So what did Canada get in return for dropping yet another Trump irritant? Nothing, outside of a compliment from the president.
Yeah, he's removing his retaliatory tariffs, which I thought was nice. We want to be very good to Canada. I like Carney a lot. I think he's a good person.
Some business groups support Carney's move.
The counter tariffs were in effect costing Canadians. They were creating inflation on Canadian products.
Others not approving. The head of Canada's largest private sector union saying it will only enable more U.S. aggression. And Ontario's premier called on Carney to hit back hard against U.S. tariffs. The Conservative leader critical of Carney's strategy.
Another capitulation and climb down by Mark Carney. His elbows have mysteriously gone missing.
Dropping some counter tariffs, one of many moves Carney has made to appease the president, including killing the digital services tax and increasing defense spending substantially, Jeff. But none of those measures have gotten Donald Trump to stop increasing tariffs.
All right, and as you mentioned, Mac, this move clearly designed to satisfy the Trump administration. So where does this leave our negotiations for a new trade deal with the U.S.?
Yeah, so to continue with the Prime Minister's hockey analogies, Jeff, renegotiating CUSMA is where the puck is going. And Carney admitted that today, saying that consultations are going to start soon on what businesses and Canadians want the government to prioritize. The Americans are expected to trigger a review of the free trade deal next spring. And there has been worries from sources I've spoken with in the Prime Minister's office that Trump could remove the exemption for Canadian free trade goods to put Ottawa under further pressure ahead of negotiations. It's something Trump has actually done before. He first put tariffs on all goods before quickly backtracking. So it appears that Carney's strategy is to try and protect as much of the current free trade deal as he can, Jeff. But Carney did admit that any new deal is going to look different than what's currently in place.
All right, Mackenzie Gray following the puck in Ottawa. Thanks, Mac. Those retaliatory tariffs had pushed up prices on some U.S. goods, and they'd also generated billions of dollars in revenue for the Canadian government, which had been used to support the industry's hardest hit. News of the tariffs' removal is now provoking a mixed reaction from consumers and businesses. Heidi Petracek explains what the move means for Canadians caught in the middle.
Thank you. It's at grocery stores where the elbows up movement to buy Canadian over U.S. goods really hit home. And it's where Ottawa's counter tariffs against American products was felt most.
Counter tariffs were hurting Canadians.
The cost of counter tariffs on foods, says this food pricing expert, was taking a toll on grocery budgets. He predicts removing those measures as of September 1st will make a difference.
We could see prices drop for products like orange juice, for example, dry goods in the center of the store. I think, honestly, this is the right move.
After U.S. President Donald Trump launched a volley of tariffs against Canadian goods in February, Canada responded with its own. But for small businesses on this side of the border, that meant higher prices on clothing, furniture, and other items.
Our August survey data did show that was the most harmful tariff on small businesses.
And so the Canadian Federation of Independent Business is happy to see them go. But there's a rub. Counter tariffs brought in $2.4 billion in revenue for Ottawa in April and May alone.
Which we still want to see return to small businesses that have been impacted by the trade disruptions.
For the multi-billion-dollar steel industry, it's a different story.
So it sounds a bit disappointing.
That's because the Prime Minister is keeping counter tariffs on U.S. autos, steel, and aluminum, although unchanged.
U.S. went from 25% up to 50% now on Canadian steel. We would hope Canada would do the same. Maybe as part of his negotiating strategy.
Carney playing the long game is what the forestry industry is counting on as the sector feels the pinch from American duties of 35% and faces an investigation by the U.S. Commerce Department that could see them spike even higher.
Going after a broader deal is really what the industry is looking for. The industry right now needs certainty.
Whether the move will pay off, up to negotiations with an unpredictable president. Heidi Petracek, Global News, Halifax.
New data shows Canadians continue to shun travel to the United States, and many who are crossing the border are having their phones and laptops searched. Nearly 15,000 electronic devices were examined by U.S. border officials between April and June. That is the highest number on record. Lawyers warn Canadians can be denied entry if they refuse to hand over passwords or social media accounts. New figures show cross-border travel is way down this summer. Canadians made 1.7 million return trips in July. That's a 37% drop from the same month last year. We're learning more about the arrest of 4 Quebec men earlier this summer over allegations they were members of an anti-government militia. A judge has now unsealed court records at the request of Global News and other media organizations. And as Mike Armstrong explains, the documents reveal new details about what spurred the police to act. Mike.
Well, Jeff, one of the things we now know is what police called their investigation, Projet Scipion. In English, Scipion is a sort of small squid. The documents do not reveal why police picked that name, but they do reveal a great deal of other information.
According to the warrant, the group called itself Hide and Stock, or H&S, and they were being watched very closely for months. CSIS referred the case to the RCMP in March of 2023 after identifying the group as a threat to national security. Now, much of H&S's social media has been pulled down, but during several of their training exercises, they were being surveilled by police. The warrant includes photos shot from above, unbeknownst to the people on the ground. Exercises were held in both Quebec and Ontario. In July of 2023, according to the warrant, one member of the group, who would later be arrested, was part of a 2-day training exercise north of Quebec City. Among the things taught was how to slit a throat and how to shoot someone in the head. Again, unbeknownst to those participating, that exercise included multiple undercover agents. The warrant also goes into detail about a podcast from June of 2023. A guest on the show, identified as a member of Hide and Stock, spoke at length about the group. According to the warrant, police believe that guest was Marc-Aurel Chabot, a serving member of the Canadian Armed Forces. Among the quotes pulled from the 2-hour program, the guest criticizes gun control, saying, quote, "A disarmed population is easy to control." He calls all politicians liars. Quote, "I still don't think there is a political solution." And he says their movement would benefit from a Waco-style massacre.
This is really a horrible sight.
Referring to the 1993 standoff in Texas with a religious cult that left 82 dead. Now, there was movement in the case in January of 2024. Police seized 50 firearms at the home of one of the men linked to the group.
But the final action came this summer, July 8th, when the 4 men were arrested. According to the documents, one of the reasons police acted when they did was out of fear that if their investigation became public, evidence might be destroyed. Jeff?
Mike Armstrong in Montreal. Thanks, Mike. For the first time, a famine has been officially declared in Gaza City and the surrounding territory. That classification comes from the world's leading authority on food crises. The UN-backed organization says at least 500,000 people are now starving, and the famine is man-made.
It is a famine in 2025, a 21st century famine, watched over by drones and the most advanced military technology in history. It is a famine on all of our watch. Everyone owns this. The Gaza famine is the world's famine.
The official definition of a famine means at least 20% of households are suffering from extreme food shortages, and at least 30% of children are acutely malnourished. Israel has rejected the findings as lies. But as Redmond Shannon reports, the report warns the famine could soon spread.
The malnutrition ward at Al Nasser Hospital in Khan Yunis, where staff say they are treating more than 60 new cases a day. Today, we are living in the reality of this famine, says this doctor. The United Nations predicts that within 5 weeks, famine conditions are likely to officially arrive in Khan Yunis. But in Gaza City, the UN-backed body that monitors hunger worldwide says famine is now officially present. This footage of Mariam is from earlier this month. She is 9 years old. She weighs 9 kilos. That's less than 20 pounds. Her mother says she has suffered from diarrhea since the start of the war.
It is a famine that we could have prevented if we had been allowed. Yet food stacks up at borders because of systematic obstruction by Israel. This is a moment of collective shame, and I think we all feel that in different ways. We all have to look back as the international community and think, where could we have got this in a different place? And we've watched it happen in real time.
The UN's relationship with Israel has been hostile throughout the Gaza war, strained even further by Friday's report, which places the blame primarily with Israel. The office of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called the report an outright lie, saying it is not analysis, it is a modern blood libel. But it is not just the UN and Gazans who say there is famine. Aid agencies like Save the Children say it has been inevitable.
We've had mothers recently coming in saying that they've been forced to eat animal feed. We had one mother saying that she hadn't eaten for 6 days.
Gaza City could yet become even more unlivable. Israel's defense minister says Gaza City will be razed unless Hamas releases all remaining Israeli hostages. Jeff?
Redmond Shannon in London. Thanks, Red. For the second time this week, Ukraine has struck a crucial Russian pipeline carrying oil to Hungary and Slovakia. Ukraine's military confirmed the attack, reportedly carried out with rockets and drones. But in a letter to the European Commission, government officials from Hungary and Slovakia say they still heavily rely on that pipeline and that oil supplies could now be suspended for days. Hungary and Slovakia are the only European Union members still buying oil from Russia. The rest of the bloc halted their purchases 3 years ago as part of sanctions against Moscow. Galain Maxwell's side of the story coming up. Newly released recordings reveal what she told U.S. officials about her ex-boyfriend, convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Plus, tour bus tragedy, the deadly crash on a New York state highway, and why the FBI raided the home of a former national security advisor. A tour bus returning from Niagara Falls has crashed in New York State, killing at least 5 people and trapping several others. Officials say the bus, carrying about 50 passengers, lost control at high speed on an interstate highway east of Buffalo. Emergency crews used helicopters and ambulances to transport the injured to nearby hospitals. Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the man mistakenly deported to El Salvador, has now been released from federal custody. A judge ordered Garcia's release from the facility near Nashville, Tennessee, where he'd been held since he was sent back from an El Salvadorian prison in June. The 30-year-old became a flashpoint in U.S. President Trump's immigration crackdown. Garcia was wrongfully accused of being a gang member. He must now live under a series of conditions, which include regular check-ins with immigration officials. The U.S. Justice Department has released the recordings and transcripts from its interview last month with Galain Maxwell, the former girlfriend and co-conspirator of convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Maxwell claimed a client list does not exist, that there were no blackmail schemes, and she said she doesn't believe Epstein died by suicide. Maxwell also said she never witnessed Donald Trump behave inappropriately with anyone. Maxwell is seeking a pardon from President Trump, and she wants her sex trafficking conviction overturned. Reaction to an FBI raid still ahead. Why is Trump's former national security advisor being targeted by federal investigators? Outside of Washington, D.C. this morning, FBI agents converged on the home of John Bolton. He's the former national security advisor to President Trump, and he's been a vocal critic of Trump since leaving the administration during Trump's first term. Candace Cole reports on the details of the raid and the message from the FBI director.
The FBI raided the home of former National Security Advisor John Bolton, spending hours rummaging through his belongings in search of classified documents, according to a source familiar with the matter. FBI agents reportedly arrived at Bolton's D.C. area home at 7 a.m. Friday. Around the same time, FBI Director Kash Patel posted to social media, "No one is above the law. FBI agents on a mission." They also went to his office in D.C.
Find it very exciting.
Bolton, who served as President Trump's national security advisor and UN ambassador during his first term before being fired in 2019, has been highly critical of Trump and his approach to foreign policy, calling him unfit to serve.
Plainly, what this is political retribution. It's intimidation. Bolton has been a vocal critic of Mr. Trump. And that simply is not permitted in the Trump universe, most particularly among people who formerly worked for him.
Bolton published a scathing memoir about his time in the White House in 2020 entitled "The Room Where It Happened," which Trump claimed contained classified information. His administration then sued unsuccessfully to block the book from publication. Trump claimed to know nothing about the raid, but had some choice words for his former appointee.
I'm not a fan of John Bolton. He's a real sort of a lowlife. He could be a very unpatriotic guy. I mean, we're going to find out. I know nothing about it. I just saw it this morning. They did a raid.
Trump revoked Bolton's security clearance and security detail in one of his first acts as president during his second term, despite Bolton receiving death threats from Iran. The Biden administration closed the investigation into Bolton's book and dropped that lawsuit against him. Bolton has maintained what he included in his book had been cleared for use. Jeff?
Candace Cole in Washington. Thanks, Candace. Rewriting human history. Up next, what a 140,000-year-old skeleton reveals about when Neanderthals first bred with Homo sapiens. Welcome back. The discovery of a 140,000-year-old human fossil is challenging what we thought we knew about early humans. Scientists say the skeleton shows traits of both Homo sapiens and Neanderthals, suggesting the two groups were interacting 100,000 years earlier than we previously thought. Eric Sorensen breaks down the groundbreaking discovery and what it reveals about human history.
The skull is small, that of a child, one of our early ancestors. What's remarkable, it has traits of both Homo sapiens and Neanderthals. The jawbone more Neanderthal, the skull a mix.
There's a lot of traits of Homo sapiens in this skull. We can see from the blood vessels that it's a bit of a mosaic, it's called. It's a mixture of traits.
The skull was discovered in a cave in what was then British-ruled Palestine almost 100 years ago. Advanced research found something extraordinary, that interbreeding began much earlier than first thought. Our evolutionary tree is not as simple as we often think.
Humans and chimpanzees diverged more than 6 million years ago. Early hominins evolved to early humans. 3 million years ago, there were first stone tools. There are other branches all the way to about 300,000 years ago, when Neanderthals and then Homo sapiens emerged, the modern human. Homo sapiens existed in Africa, Neanderthals in parts of Europe and Asia. Then Homo sapiens began to migrate out of Africa. And about 40,000 years ago, Neanderthals disappeared. Before they went extinct, there was interbreeding. But for how long? This early fossil suggests interbreeding lasted up to 100,000 years. Evidence Homo sapiens didn't just try to wipe out Neanderthals.
Homo sapiens was not a violent species at all, because he managed to live side by side with Neanderthals for a very long period of time.
Neanderthals were more isolated and less able to cope with change, from disease to environmental factors. Longer interbreeding lends weight to two populations gradually becoming one.
Maybe they were just absorbed into our population through these acts of interbreeding. Enough interaction between the two groups to become one big population over time.
The fossil is believed to be that of a 5-year-old. Paleontologists and archaeologists gaining new insights from a child into how our ancestors evolved. Eric Sorensen, Global News, Toronto.
And that is Global National for this Friday night. I'm Jeff Semple. Tonight's Your Canada showcases Canadian flags made of fused glass in Chilliwack, BC, a garden in Sherwood Park, Alberta, and a patriotic moose statue in Toronto. Please keep sending your pictures of Canadian pride to globalnational@globalnews.ca. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you back here again tomorrow. Have a great night.